In the discussion with singer-songwriter Corey Chambers, we talked about his new song, Stalker Farmer, here in a solo version that had just been composed, and secondly, with his band City Hotel in a performance at the Sentient Bean. What other songs do you want to share?
Well, got a brand new song for the occasion. But, I like to write songs about modern technology and relationships. Here's one about a relationship gone awry. On the way to my new job, when I went to see my friend, my next words have been robbed. You beat me there again. In the den of the downtown, in the silence of the sticks, you'll always be around with your scary little click. Am I wise enough to wonder, or just sharp enough to point? Makes it hard for me to wander. You know where I'm going. You know that we're not talking, but you won't leave me alone. It's clear I farmed a stalker. When I tapped you on the phone, they say I'm lost without you, going wrong directions fast, but I know I can do without you, 'cause I did it in the past. I tell you, when my skin got coldest, I realized you would not stop. I began to slowly notice where I like to shop. You know that we're not talking, but you won't leave me alone. It's clear I farmed a stalker. When I tapped you on the phone, it's clear I farmed a stalker. When I tapped you on the phone, new one. It's called Stalker Farmer.
Certainly songwriters like to put the important message in the chorus. And that seemed to, with this one, that's where much of the important message is, in terms of farmed a stalker.
Yeah.
And won't leave me alone.
Right. Yeah. So I wrote this for Google. What inspired this was I'm a substitute teacher and I go to different schools all the time, and I noticed when I would type the school into my phone to get directions to it, like the Google would pretty much finish the name of the school for me before I could type very many letters at all. It was alarming, so I got the idea to write this silly song, maybe try to make it sound like about a person that was being clingy. But yeah, it's about Google.
So Google was the inspiration.
Absolutely.
But it certainly, as you suggest, it could very well be someone who you contacted and developed a relationship with.
Yeah.
And now you know it's over, but
Right.
they apparently don't know it's over.
Right. Yeah, I tried to make it veiled so it could work both ways. But then I gave away the joke of it, immediately. I should have held on to that for a little while, maybe.
Well, I particularly like, you know where I shop.
Right. I figured that would give it away there.
So, no, I don't think that necessarily gives it away, because in a relationship, and they know you go to Whole Foods, they can hang around Whole Foods and you'll be there.
Absolutely.
That certainly gives it more meaning.
Sure.
Certainly in a relationship with a Google.
So yeah, this one's kind of an extended joke song. A novelty tune.
I don't see it as a novelty tune.
Well, that's good.
Maybe the origin was novelty, but it really speaks to relationships and the way that you use words. For instance, if you understand that it came from Google, but know that people hang around in groups.
Sure.
You made the comment about you in the cliques.
Yeah.
So it could be the clique on the computer, or it could be a group that person hangs around with.
That's right. It's those points I'm talking about. I feel like I'm getting them now. I'm getting the points. This is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Like you say, using, in this case, less of a pun and more of a double entendre.
Sure. I want it to be as layered and as fun as possible for the listener. Just in case they are actually listening. You never know.
When you introduce the song, are you going to make some comment about its origin, or wait until the end?
Well, this is a brand new one. I don't know. I think I would not. I'd probably just let it stand alone. And I'm hoping we can record this one. We're gonna do a record this summer. City Hotel is. We got a bunch of new material. But yeah, I like that one. It kind of lends itself to the bluegrass minor chord progression there. Spooky sounding. So I'm hoping it'll make the cut on this next City Hotel record.
Well, let's take a song like Stalker Farmer. You composed it. When it gets to the band, what happens?
Well, generally, Aaron's such a phenomenal vocalist, he'll start looking for ways to add a harmony vocal, as is customary for bluegrass. So I'm lucky like that. He can add a lot of higher harmony parts that a lot of people can't hit. And so that adds a dynamic right there that's awesome immediately. Lately we've been trying to just be as creative as possible and change up tempos. That's what I'm kind of hoping. I wrote this song a couple nights ago because I knew I was coming here. But once I bring it to them in practice, I'm kind of hoping somebody will suggest something far out. I don't know what that'll be yet, but it's almost to the point where I like bringing stuff as bare bones as possible with just a chord progression and some words. And the boys in City Hotel, they're all great arrangers, and we have a lot of fun coming up with goofy stuff to do to try to make it interesting. So that's probably what'll happen. I'm excited to see what turns that one takes.
Here's a performance by City Hotel of a full band version of Stalker Farmer at a recent concert.
On the way to my new job, when I went to see my friend, my next words have been robbed. Meet me there again, in the din of the downtown, in the silence of the sticks. You will always be around with your scary little clique. So am I wise enough to wonder, or just sharp enough to point? Makes it hard for me to wander when you know where I'm going. pulled this, I realized it would not stop. I began to slowly notice, you know where I like to shop. You know we're not coffee, but you won't leave me alone. It's clear I farmed the stalker. When I tapped you on the phone,
Then I talked with blues singer Ray Lundy about why sing the blues. Why the blues? Why is it important to hear the blues? Why is it important to play the blues?
The blues is, there's nothing mystical or supernatural about it. The blues music is about feeling better. It's about making people feel better, I think, to me, is the way I see it. You know, the world is sick. Society is sick. And it needs art and music to heal it and make people feel better. And the blues is about getting over your troubles and your problems. And if you can sing about it, maybe that'll help you feel better about it. If you sing about your problems, then you kind of have a sense of mastery over it. Maybe it's not quite so bad. If you're feeling bad and you hear some other guy like me singing about my problems or things or whatever is going on, maybe to cheer you up because you know you don't have it as bad as I do. So sometimes, you know, there's humor in there. Even in the midst of tragedy and heartache, that there's a little humor. It's not about some just being sad or I'm feeling bad, so I'm going to listen to some blues. Or it's about feeling better. You put on blues music when you want to have a good time. Yeah, it's just an incredible heritage that we have as musicians. All around the world, everybody gets the blues. Like I think it was Buddy Guy says, if you ain't had the blues, then just keep on living. Because everybody's going to get the blues sooner or later. Like, if you got to make the rent, man, and you ain't got the money, then that's the blues. If you're stuck in traffic, or if you're a kid that wants his candy, yeah, nobody's going to give you the candy, well, yeah, you got the blues. It brings everybody together, just the whole human comedy, or whatever.
You mentioned the humor in blues. Could you give us an example of that?
Sure. Like in a song.
Yeah.
Try to think of one that's clean. Well, you know, the old, it's as old as dirt, man. I mean, I'm going back to the country, y'all. I can't pay this rent. Well, I ain't completely broke, but man, I'm badly bent. I don't know. I don't know where all my money went. Well, now I ain't broke, but man, I'm badly bent. When I get back to the country, I'm gonna be living in a tent. My mom and pa gonna be mad about all that money I spent. And I told them I don't know. I don't know where all my money went. Yeah, I ain't broke, but man, I'm badly bent. You know, I had a lot of money one time, but to the city I went. I met one too many good-looking girls, and you know that's where all my money went, boys. I know. I know exactly where all my money went. Yeah, I told you I ain't broke. I ain't broke, but man, I'm badly bent. Maybe not the funniest blues song you've ever heard, but, well, there's never a joke unless it's at somebody else's expense. And so I guess maybe that's where it kind of comes into play, that it can be sometimes kind of humorous. Other people's miseries are entertainment, right? That's where the blues comes into play there, too, sure, you know.
We have talked with singer-songwriters, jazz musicians, and bluesmen. But what about classical music? Yes, we have some truly talented classical musicians in town. I had a chance to talk with pianist and composer Benjamin Warsaw, who was seated at the grand piano on the stage of the Fine Arts Auditorium at Armstrong State University. We talked about a lot of things, but among them was a discussion of how he constructs a program that includes his own music. When you're including your own compositions in a concert, what goes through your mind when you set up your concert?
I try to show differences and similarities. I like to show that the influences are there, but there's also new material too. So, for example, just recently I've been doing a concert of preludes and etudes where the first half I'll play prelude selections by Rachmaninoff, by Monpeau, by Chopin, by Bach, and by myself and my own works. And I'll show them in such a way that, you know, some of them might sound very, very forward thinking, and some of them might really sound, well, that kind of sounds like Chopin. Well, that sounds like it was written 200 years ago. So that as you're listening to this, I go from something that's written by Bach to written by me to written by Chopin, then back to Monpeau, and then, you know, which is a 20th century Catalan composer. And to kind of show that, wait a minute, that kind of sounds like jazz. Is that Chopin anymore? I mean, you can listen to the G minor prelude by Chopin, and you're like, that is so intense. You know, we think of Chopin. Yeah, we think of Chopin like that. We don't think of Chopin like as this fortissimo composer. When my students see forte on the page of Chopin, it's always like, well, let's take it down a level so we can really hear those notes better, opposed to someone like Rachmaninoff, where you kind of play more into the piano. With Chopin, there's some sort of introvertedness to it, you know. So to have this Floristan show up in Chopin's writing, I think, you know, is very exciting. And then when you put that next to something that I wrote that's, you know, quite quiet. To that, the question is like, wait, what, when was this written? When was this, what is this? You know, where was this taken from? So I like to do that. And I don't want to say confuse the listener, you know, but to have the listener ask questions and say, I didn't think I liked Baroque music, but man, that's really exciting, or whatever I'm going for.
And then I had a chance to talk to a relatively new singer-songwriter in town, Payne Bridges. We talked about the components of her songs. This discussion and performance features the song Hemingway. And so when you construct the song itself, what are the components that you generally want in a song? Or does that vary from song to song?
It varies. A lot of my songs will be consistent with 2 or 3 verses and a chorus with a bridge. They're not all like that, though. Some of them are just a chorus or just 2 verses and maybe 1 line that repeats. So yeah, it varies. It just depends on what I want to say, how I'm feeling, if I took a nap that day or not. So every song's different.
For those who aren't familiar with songwriting, most people know what a verse is.
Right.
It's the general theme you're trying to express.
Right.
A chorus is some repeated emphasis probably that you want to put on.
Right.
What's a bridge?
The way that I look at it is a bridge is lyrically is just an additional thought to add to the song that you really just want to hit home, that kind of sums up everything in the song. It's like the oh yeah of the song and this, get this. So you've got your verses of here's what I want to say. Your chorus is like here's the big picture of what I'm saying. And then the bridge is, get this. This is, don't forget this too. This is important. This applies. This is going to help tie it together as well.
So in the song, Let's Go, give the listener each of those parts.
So in Let's Go, it actually goes chorus, verse, chorus. There's no bridge in Let's Go, just to keep that steadiness. Musically with a bridge, sometimes it's a key change, sometimes it's a change in tone of the song entirely. Can I play an example? This is a fairly new song. It was just written in like the last 6 months, and I've gotten to play it out several times now, which is really cool. This is Hemingway. Hemingway is a song about the relationship between Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's a bridge toward the end. Ernest walked the river's edge, 1928. A pen along with a half-blank page. He found that old cafe. Here he once sits out with a friend, shared some lines in prose. But Scott had gone and taken it too far. Ernest read in his note. Ernest read in his note. Mr. Hemingway, I don't wanna fight. Come on over, have a drink with me in the city of light. Scott had always enjoyed the drink since his Princeton days. Then Zelda came along in his life. He never was the same. He never was the same. Despite the great man that he was, he always failed on the field. Ernest had what he didn't possess. Scott used the bottle to do. Scott used the bottle to do. Mr. Hemingway, I don't wanna fight. Come on over, have a drink with me in the city of light. Keep moving on. I see it in my head. If you come over, oh, I promise I'll put the bottle to rest. I'll put the bottle to rest. a city of light.
Before we talk about the parts, what was the inspiration for this song?
I was reading a biography about F. Scott Fitzgerald, and it was just a very short, abbreviated version of his life in the 20s when he was living in Paris. And there was that whole group of Fitzgerald and Hemingway and Gertrude Stein and Ford and all these great artists and authors that were just together in community. It talked a lot about Fitzgerald and Hemingway's friendship and time that they spent together in Paris. It also went into about F. Scott Fitzgerald's problems with alcohol and how that affected his relationships, and that he would be present or not be present dependent on how much he was drinking. I think things would get really bad, and then things would get better, and then things would get really bad again. That biography started me thinking, and I was actually taking a modern French history class at the time too, and so learning a lot about Paris in the 20s, and just kind of entranced by that idea of all those people being together in that beautiful place at one time.
Now, interesting, it was really based upon the life of F. Scott Fitzgerald.
But it's called Hemingway.
It's called Hemingway.
But it's called Hemingway. I've thought about that, and honestly, I'm not sure how I came to the title. It just, in the chorus, it's a letter to Ernest Hemingway, and yeah, I settled on Hemingway. It's Hemingway. So I feel like that's pretty memorable.
You mean it as a letter?
Yes.
From F. Scott Fitzgerald?
From F. Scott Fitzgerald to Ernest Hemingway. And the first verse is telling a story of Ernest Hemingway. He's walking, down the Seine River and stops at a cafe that he and F. Scott Fitzgerald would always meet at, and he's got this note from Fitzgerald, and that's the chorus. It's, Mr. Hemingway, I don't want to fight. Come over, have a drink.
Was there controversy between the two of them?
When Fitzgerald was drinking heavily, I think things were problematic, and I think there was hostility. Hemingway was an alcoholic as well. I think at the time in the 20s he was a little bit more under control than Fitzgerald was. So is what I gathered from this biography and from what I've read. But
well, as you point out, that F. Scott Fitzgerald always enjoyed a drink since his Princeton days. Mm-hmm. So he began drinking quite early.
Yes.
And continued.
Very much so. And then when he met Zelda, she was insane, and I'm sure didn't help him with his issues either. So their story it's sad. It's also very romantic and inspiring as well. So.
Do we expect a sequel called Zelda, perhaps?
That's a good idea. I could look into that. It'd be a rap song.
Let's take the song apart and
sure.
Talk about each of the components.
Sure. So the way that song is structured is you have the first verse, and then a chorus. You've got the second verse, a chorus. You've got the bridge, and that's where the feeling gets a little bit darker. It goes to the minor rather than the major chord. And then you've got the final chorus. And so the purpose with the bridge is just that to say that this was an ongoing relationship, and that what I wanted to get across in the repetition of the line, I'll put the bottle to rest, I'll put the bottle to rest, I'll put the bottle to rest, is that, like I said earlier, with Fitzgerald's relationships and his friendships, it was things would be fine and good, and then they would get really bad, and then they'd be okay again, and then get really bad again. So that's just what I wanted to reflect in that reputation of I'll put the bottle to rest.
The important point that you wanted to express was he had a very great respect for Hemingway. Mm. He wanted that relationship to continue, and he was willing to perhaps put aside some of his drinking to continue that. I think he definitely knew he had a problem, and that drinking was the root of a lot of his issues, and specifically relational issues. So yeah, that's what I wanted to get across there.
More than that, though, I just wanted to tell this story. It is sad, but it came from a place of kind of awe and nostalgia of, oh, Paris in the 20s. Look at this friendship. You know, they're in this beautiful space and having this melody, come have a drink with me in the city of light. Sounds wonderful. But in reality, it was seemingly a sad story, a sad friendship.
The chorus is really focused on meet with me here in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
The first verse, as you indicated, really is setting the scene. It's Hemingway walking down the street, walking along the Seine,
Right.
finding the cafe. What does the second verse tell to the listener?
The second verse is kind of filling in on Fitzgerald, on who he is and kind of his background. So Scott had always enjoyed drink, and then Zelda comes along, and there's always this hostility. He's not stable in his relationships. And Zelda comes along, and so despite the great man that he was, he's a great American author. He's a great man. He did great things. Athletic. But then there's Ernest Hemingway, who's this man's man and hunts and fishes and is in war and is this very manly man. And then you have Fitzgerald, who's kind of the opposite of that, a little bit more delicate, I guess you could say. And that last line is Scott used the bottle to deal. The biography hinted towards not full-on jealousy, but just that Hemingway possessed things that he didn't, had qualities that Scott didn't have, and so he dealt with them by drinking. And part of that is me just kind of wanting to tell a story, wanting to tell an interesting story. So the truth of that, like I said, I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone would really know, but I think it helps with this song and helps to tell this story.
That is what our show is going to be about. And that is what this show is trying to do. To paraphrase the words of Anders Thompson, I hope that you will be able to continue to hear me. Check, check, 1, 2.
Well, I know we ain't headed for the Hall of Fame. Gonna give it what we got, man, that ain't no shame. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, check, 1, 2. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, check, 1, 2.